Good evening. This is John Bailey, and this is People to Be Heard, the program where people who have something to say have their say. And tonight, you've got Joe Walsh and Stephen Ferry of the White Plains Performing Arts Center. Now, I think it's 12th year.
I believe so.
Yes, 12th year in White Plains, and they're here to talk about the WPPAC's coming season, which opens October the 13th. And Joe Walsh is the director of Ghost, which has great news, perhaps the best, most contemporary star to grace the WPPAC stage. Why don't you tell us about it?
Well, we have Natalie Weiss coming to star in the show as Molly. Natalie was on American Idol as a semi-finalist. She's appeared in Wicked and in Les Miserables.
Everyday Rapture on Broadway, she was also in that.
And she's a fantastic singer and actress, and we're delighted that she will be coming to be in the show.
Right. What prompted her to take this role?
I think a lot of when we were thinking of Ghost is based off the movie, which so many people know, but it was a musical that I think a lot of people may have missed when it was on Broadway. It wasn't on Broadway for a long period of time, and it has a fantastic score by Glenn Ballard and Dave Stewart, who are from Eurythmics. Also, they wrote, Man in the Mirror for Michael Jackson, a bunch of stuff that people would know. And when you think of the role of Molly, her songs are so contemporary, but they're really difficult as far as vocal pieces to be able to sing. And Natalie is someone who I had known, and I think a bunch of theater people have known for first and most importantly her voice and also her performances. And I knew that her sound, I think, would be really what this role kind of wanted. And I knew that she was someone that our target audience of a lot of our shows here at White Plains are that 20, 30, 40s crowd of patrons who would know her in that musical theater world. So we reached out to her to kind of see if this was something she was interested in, and she said she was.
I understand she has always wanted to do this role.
It is a role that she's always wanted to do, which was interesting because not a lot of people do the show. It's a show that's been out for a couple of years for licensing, but not many people do because they're afraid of the technical elements of the show. There was a lot of magic in the original production, and it was, I think when she saw the show, it was a role and score that she felt connected to, and she's lucky to
She has quite an internet following, too.
She does. She has something like 55 or more thousand subscribers on YouTube and like 16 or more thousand followers on Instagram and all these things. So she's definitely known.
Yes. So there's magic in the show. Tell us about it. What magic do we see?
So some of the magic, and we're not going to reveal all of it, but we are doing a version of the show that takes it down to 10 actors, which is like a chamber version versus the larger, 30-person cast that originated with it, which is a challenge in itself with the 10 people. Actually makes the show, I think, a little more difficult than it does with 30 people. But the magic that we put in, we've found a way to make sure that there's enough of it in it that pays, I guess, homage to the original, but also that it's not extremely distracting. I think part of the original production, so much of it was about the magic and the technical elements that you kind of lost the story and the music within all of that. So we're trying to find that happy median of, giving enough of the illusions and magic and whatnot that, the audience may expect or want to see, but also really start to focus in on the score in the book.
Now, going along with this line, in addition, you are basically selecting the shows we do every season now here at WPPAC, and Jeremy Quinn is handling individual one-night-only events because of his relocating.
Sure.
And now, what was your idea going into this season? What is the departure? These are really great shows you're doing.
Yeah, and we collectively as an organization all sit around the table and talk about show titles. I'll often bring 5 titles to the table and say, here are things that we were thinking about. And then as a group, we'll kind of say, what do we think is smart, for the organization, and what do we think people want to see? So as much as I kind of bring that to the table, as a group, we really decide what we think should be presented here, which is great. coming into, I think, our mission always is to do stuff that you really can't see anywhere else. We're not a theater that really does, you know, Oklahoma and the classics that you can kind of see at every high school and every regional theater kind of across the country. We focus on stuff that's either contemporary, that's recently been on Broadway or something like that, and stuff that we think is, you know, going to draw audience members to have to come to White Plains to see that show. So a show like Ghost had been on the table a couple of years here and there, and it just wasn't ever the right time to do it, and we felt that this season it was something that fit into our idea of what's something contemporary, but also something small, and because it was a smaller cast and whatnot, it was a good choice for that slot. And having Natalie involved in it totally brought it to a different level of
Well, certainly this could be the breakthrough show
yeah,
for
and
the WPPAC with the star of Miss Macintosh.
sure, and looking of, you know, Ghost going into something like Hunchback, you know, there are two opposite ends of the spectrum, right? You have Hunchback is this huge epic show similar to something like Les Mis, right? There's a 20-person cast, a 15-piece orchestra, and a 32-person choir. So you have over, you know, 60 people involved in the production just as far as performers go. And that came to, you know, the table and the idea of it's a show personally that I've always loved the score to, but it's never, again, it's never done regionally that often, and definitely has not been done in New York, mainly because, again, people have this fear of, oh, there's a 30-person choir, you know, how are we going to do that? And there's a lot of elements, and I think Ghost and Hunchback, yes, both based off of movies, you know, have that element of people steer themselves away from picking those titles because of those challenging elements, and for us, we found it to be something interesting to overcome to be able to do those shows.
Joe, you directed West Side Story.
Yes.
Last, great production.
Thank you very much.
See it. And coming to Ghosts, are you really excited by this show? Because I haven't heard of it for a couple of years. You know?
Yeah, I think the contemporary feel, I mean, when it first came out, I was living in England, so I saw the original West End production a number of times and had a friend in the tour, so it's a show that I came in familiar with. But the more I've sort of investigated it, delved into it, and done my research on it, the more I've really found the heart of the story. You know, it's really a story about people who are striving to find a connection in a world that is unfamiliar to them.
Yes, and it's really has a great drama to it. I've never seen the show, so
You've never seen, have you seen
No.
the film?
No.
No.
I didn't see it.
Yeah.
I thought
It was one of the-
happy ending. Right. Yes.
Yeah, I remember seeing it when I was a teenager, obviously, and it was a great film, and it really translates very well to the stage because at its heart you have these four principal characters, Oda Mae, Molly, Sam, and Carl, who all for different reasons are searching for a connection. So they're all sort of lost in the city of New York, and you know, they are working and struggling to find out who they are and where they belong. And through the events of the play, they do. And ultimately, Ghost, one of the characters is a ghost.
Yes.
They
He loves a ghost.
they learn how to complete their journey. They learn how to kind of help someone else in a way that allows them to finish their time on this earth.
Which is the uplifting spirit of the musical.
Yes.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
Now, coming to the particulars on Ghost, it starts in October 13th.
The 13th, it goes to the 29th.
Yes.
It mainly plays weekends.
Yes.
And then we have one weekday matinee, which is on Thursday the 19th, where we encourage senior homes, churches, groups, anything like that to definitely come and check out the show during the week as well.
Right. Now, the next production would be the Hairspray production.
Yeah, so what we've done new this year has been combined forces with another well-known youth theater, the Westchester Sandbox Theater. They were located in Mamaroneck for a number of years and have really been an up-and-coming place for youth theater. We've always done youth theater here, but because of our schedule, with rentals and main stages and whatnot, it's hard to really put a ton of focus on the youth and their theater programs more than once or twice a year in our summer camp. So by partnering with the Sandbox Theater, who was looking for a new home and a new space, I had worked with them on a bunch of their main stages a couple of years ago and have known them. And we decided to join forces because it allows us to not only increase our programming for youth, but also not force us as much to be, overseeing every little detail of it, where we can now expand our pool into not only our kids who we get, but their kids. Where they do shows, they have sometimes 60 people in one show. So we're really expanding our conservatory program. And Joe has been here all summer, doing the educational theater stuff while Ariana has been out on maternity leave, and he's been able to kind of see this new transition kind of happen.
Now, the Hairspray will be that you'll have equity plus children.
So no. So the only two equity main stage shows, so we're broken up into what I like to call 3 different branches. So the main stage are our professional shows, which are Ghost and Hunchback at the moment. Those are equity actors, Broadway performers. We have our special events, which are stuff like you'll see Girls Night, Langston Hughes, some of those one night only events that Jeremy does a lot of the booking on, and then our conservatory theater. And the conservatory theater encompasses everything educational about theater, which is what Hairspray is, which is all kids, high school aged.
That gives you a chance to, it fits the type of cast you want.
Correct, and so those are all kids in that production, which Sandbox also works with us on, and then Stage 2, which Joe directed this summer, which allows us to do our college-aged performers and community theater performers to get to perform in a professional space.
John Bailey, and I'm talking tonight with Joe Walsh, who is director of Ghosts, coming up in the White Plains Performing Arts Center, premiering with the star Natalie Weiss in October, and also Stephen Ferry, who has put together the dramatic season. And we're talking, of course, about the White Plains Performing Arts Center 2017-2018. Now, how did you find, Joe, how the summer program that you worked with this summer, how is that growing? I mean, it seems that the Performing Arts Center has turned into a year-round activity because of these connections you've made, right?
Yeah, it was fantastic. I mean, it's a wild summer. It's so busy. So we did Pirates of Penzance Jr., we did Xanadu Jr., Cinderella Kids, and then our second stage production of West Side Story. So I directed West Side Story, and I helped to oversee the rest of it. So we had, over the summer, about 75 campers who came and went, and they were in classes, and they learned about auditioning technique, and they learned dancing and singing and acting, and then they were put together and did these sort of 1-hour versions of these major musicals. And we did it in in 3 weeks for each of those productions. So it was it was a fantastic summer, but really busy. And we were doing from 8:30 to 4:30 we would have the camp in, and then they would go, and then we'd move over, and from 5:30 to 10:30 we'd be doing West Side Story. So it was fantastic, and it almost felt like a giant summer repertory season. So that we were able to kind of offer great opportunities for the students, but also kind of show these 4 different productions to our audiences as well.
Now, if parents wanted to get their children involved in this, how did they do that?
Well, we have, as we said, coming up is Hairspray, and we have our fall conservatory programs. They can visit our website, which is
WPPAC.com.
Very good, thank you. Very good. Didn't have to get the slide up for that, but we will. And so, the third production is Girls Night Out.
Right, so Girls Night Out and the Langston Hughes Project are both 2 of our special one-night-only events. Girls Night is a great show if you are familiar with menopausal musical and that sort of, that style of a production. Girls Night is similar. They describe it as Desperate Housewives meets Mamma Mia.
Yes.
So that, to me, I think is a perfect way to describe it, because it gives you an idea of what the story is about, but also musically, they're doing stuff like It's Raining Men, Man, I Feel Like a Woman, a whole bunch of stuff, jukebox hits that I think people would love to kind of see done in a different way on stage.
And fully orchestrated.
Yeah, I believe the show it's a touring show, so they've been on tour for a while doing it.
It's one night only?
And they do one night only on November 17th at 8 o'clock. And then the Langston Hughes Project, which is on Saturday, November 18th, at 8 p.m. That's really great for anyone who loved any of Langston Hughes' work. Jazz, it's an interesting kind of mashup of multimedia stuff where they have video and audio of different works for Langston Hughes, as well as spoken word poetry, and it's accompanied by a live jazz quartet. So it's a really interesting, different piece of theater, and we try to look for these type
That's
of
very ambitious.
yeah, one night only events that are well known, you know, touring acts across the country that can come in and show what they have here.
Right. And the final production?
Our final production for the fall season is The Hunchback of Notre Dame, which is interesting because this version is based off of the Victor Hugo novel, who and Victor Hugo, you know, wrote Les Mis, the novel of Les Mis, and everyone I think can connect his name to that. So it's a little bit of a darker piece than the Disney film, but it features all of the music, including some new songs from the Disney film, which Alan Menken wrote, and we've done a bunch of his work here the past few years, from Little Mermaid to Sister Act. He wrote Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Little Shop, and the lyrics are actually by Stephen Schwartz, who wrote Wicked and Pippin, amongst a bunch of other stuff. So you can't get much better than the two of them, I think, writing a score.
Right. And how does the Hunchback handle the somber side? Can you take children to it? Can you?
I think, you know, it never played Broadway, but it played at Paper Mill Playhouse and La Jolla Playhouse, which are large regional venues, and then did a bunch of productions across the country. There's actually one in Berlin now as well. And you can definitely take kids to it. There's nothing inappropriate in it. I think what we find as far as an age demographic that may be more interested in it is that, you know, 8, 9, or 10-year-olds, you know, mainly because of focus, because it's not like your typical Disney show with, you know, a lot of huge spectacle and, you know, like Beauty and the Beast. It's not anything where like Be Our Guest and stuff like that is happening. So it's much more focused on, you know, a little bit more of the darker side of that novel. But it's totally appropriate for kids. I think more so the focus of it is what we.
Stephen, you've been with the WPPAC for a number of years, right? Now, how do you see the theater's position in the community now? Do you think you have much more of a base?
Yeah, I think we're definitely getting to be more well known. I think our biggest challenge is being located on the 3rd floor of a shopping mall, right? There's not a lot of people who, you know, outdoors are walking by and noting there's a theater here. I think it's also sometimes hard because we get confused with, you know, all of the theaters in the area seem to start with a W, between the Westchester County Center, the Westchester Broadway Theater, the White Plains, before everyone's got a W, right? So it all sometimes becomes interchangeable, but we're definitely becoming more on the map, I think, to people. And again, we're doing stuff like Ghost and Hunchback and Girls Night and all of that. You know, that's stuff that you're not seeing elsewhere. So we're hoping that that's driving people to know, oh, if I want to see something newer versus a classic.
We've been talking about regional theater before, and we've also been talking about your efforts to reach the millennial audiences, the younger people with money. No kids, right. But at any rate, what do you feel is the key to tapping this market, and are you doing a better job at it?
I think we are. I also think we're one of the only theaters in the area, professional theaters, that really targets this market. I think so many theaters, you know, focus on the older demographic because those are the people who are going to spend money to see theater, you know what I mean? And that's great, but eventually that audience dies out and you're stuck with having to try to grasp new audience members. So something that we focus on here, and I think with, you know, new audiences, is picking titles that they have been able to be a part of and witness on Broadway or regionally somewhere. Stuff like Ghost and Hunchback, the people coming to see the show may be people who have never seen the show before, or people who within the past, you know, 4 or 5 years since it was here, you know, got to see it on Broadway and want to see someone else, you know, do a production of it. And I think, I know myself, that's something I love to see. There may be a show I see on Broadway that I feel connected to and I want to see done in another, you know, professional theater. And I think this new generation of audiences are really into the title, you know what I mean, stuff that they're connected to. And working with younger kids, you know, that we did this year, I think that is something that when you hear kind of when we pick stuff, even for the summer, you know, we try to pick stuff that the kids at least know or are related to, because they may not be as well versed in, you know, theater history as, you know, others are.
Yeah. This generation also, ticketing-wise, they see the same title multiple times. Versus an older audience will come and see it once, they'll do their, but you know, these younger fans are avid fans.
They see a show they love
15 times.
They'll go to Waitress,
I know,
you know,
that
do
is
the ticket,
amazing.
you know, the rush line at
Yes.
5 o'clock in the morning for Waitress 15 times. And so even friends of mine, you know, when the announcement was made about Natalie and about Ghost, said, you know, I've already booked tickets for this night, this night, and this night. I'm going to come 3 times. And there's such an interest, I think, instead of just enjoying the entertainment, about watching how something's put together. So these new theater goers are really intelligent about watching the art that's happening in front of them on stage and seeing it once for pleasure, and then 2 or 3 times to kind of look at the detail and kind of pick apart the technique of how things are happening and learn from it. It's really interesting.
And nowhere can you really enjoy a show more than in a theater the size of the Performing Arts, Westchester White Plains Performing Arts Center, which is 400. You're right, and there is no such thing as bad seat. And you really get.
We also have the
feels
most comfortable
campus.
seats, I think, out of all
Very
the theaters I've been to. And
Exactly.
And it is something that I said, our size is great, I think, because it's the perfect mix of slightly intimate, but also big enough to feel like you're not performing in a black box or something like that, which is great. And I think both of the shows we picked almost feel the same way as a show. You know what I mean? Ghost, we found that middle ground of to make it feel big enough, but yet feel intimate as far as getting into the characters. And same thing with Hunchback. We picked this huge epic show to feel like it fills a huge space, but yet the focus of the show really dives in to those, you know, select characters in the score.
Now, the future of the White Plains Performing Arts Center. I understand when we interviewed last year, we had come to about the break-even point after all these years paying off that debt from many years ago. So, where does the theater go from here?
I think we can only go, you know, up from here, which is great, and you know, being able to, you know, pay off debt and all of that type of stuff is great. And we hope by the shows that we're choosing, the people we're getting to be in the shows, that all helps and that people start to trust what we do. And I think the way you build a you know, audience base and relationship is if you give them enough good shows in a row, they're going to trust at some point, no matter what you put on stage, and come and see it. And I think that's how these huge regional theaters like Goodspeed and La Jolla and all of those really thrive, is that they've been able to do great work for so many years in a row that their audience now will buy anything they put on stage because they trust what they're going to get. And that's what we're hoping to do, and I think we've been successful over the last at least 5 years of when we've brought back the main stage to really do that, to give something to every audience member that they may like. And we have people who come back every year that may not even know what the title is, but will come and see it.
So the title we're really eager to see is Ghost. Joe, a few last words about Ghost. Why should people see this? Why are you excited to direct it?
I'm excited because it's a human story with supernatural elements to it. People are very interested in sort of the supernatural right now. It's hysterically funny and also extremely moving, and I think there's something that everyone can see of themselves in each of these characters.
Well, Joe Walsh and Stephen Ferry of the White Plains Performing Arts Center, you have been heard, and good luck on the new season.
Thanks so
Thank
much
you
for
very
having
much.
us.
Okay, and good night for people to be heard.